Welcome back to our channel. Today we delve into the captivating and tragic story of Babe Paley, one of the most glamorous and influential socialites of the 20th century. Renowned for her impeccable style, grace, and beauty, Babe was the epitome of perfection in New York's high society. Yet, behind the dazzling jewels, enviable fashion, and poised demeanor lay a woman battling emotional isolation, betrayal, and an unrelenting pursuit of approval. From her rise as one of the iconic Cushing Sisters to her tumultuous marriage with media mogul William Paley, Babe's life was as beautiful as it was damaged. Join us as we uncover the fascinating layers of her story, her triumphs, her heartbreaks, and the secrets that shocked the world. Babe Paley, born Barbara Cushing in 1915 in Boston, Massachusetts, was destined for a life that seemed almost too charmed to be true. As the youngest of 5 children in a family that straddled the worlds of intellect and high society, Babe grew up surrounded by both privilege and expectation. Her father, Harvey Cushing, was not just a renowned brain surgeon, but a towering figure in the medical field, pioneering techniques that would change neurosurgery forever. On the other hand, her mother, Catherine, was a quintessential socialite, graceful, polished, and perfectly attuned to the demands of elite society. Babe's childhood was far from ordinary. As the baby of the family, she was doted on relentlessly, earning the affectionate nickname Babe. Her older siblings, particularly her sisters Minnie and Betsy, carved out their own paths in the upper echelons of society. Minnie married into the illustrious Astor family, while Betsy joined the Roosevelt lineage. Together, the 3 Cushing sisters became the darlings of New York high society, earning the collective moniker the Fabulous Cushing Sisters. The trio wasn't just admired, they were emulated, representing the pinnacle of beauty, sophistication, and social savvy. While her sisters were celebrated for their strategic marriages, Babe was already forging her own path. She wasn't merely the youngest Cushing. She was a force to be reckoned with in her own right. Her debutante ball in 1934 marked her official entry into the world of high society, and it was nothing short of spectacular. At just 18 years old, Babe captivated everyone with her radiant beauty. Her debutante moment wasn't just a milestone, it was a declaration. Society took note. This wasn't merely the youngest sister following in her siblings' footsteps. Babe was a style icon in the making. The adoration Babe received wasn't fleeting. Admirers were quick to declare her beauty unparalleled. One captivated admirer famously remarked, "No matter how often I see her, each time feels like the first." Such was the spell Babe cast. A combination of her ethereal looks and her quiet yet commanding presence. Her upbringing in the Cushing family's glittering sphere of influence had prepared her well, but her natural charisma set her apart. In hindsight, Babe's early years were more than just a prelude to her life of glamour. They were a crucible in which her identity as a societal icon was forged. From her family's towering legacy to the dazzling debut that catapulted her into the public eye, Babe Paley's beginnings were as extraordinary as the woman she would become. Yet, even as she seemed to float effortlessly through the ranks of high society, one wonders, how much of this perfection was a blessing, and how much of it would eventually become a burden? In 1935, Babe Paley took a bold step that would define the next chapter of her life. She moved to New York City. Joining her sisters in the bustling metropolis, Babe was entering a world brimming with possibilities, where ambition and style were as essential as breath. With her natural beauty, grace, and the backing of her family's illustrious reputation, Babe quickly immersed herself in the glamorous realm of high fashion. Her refined sense of style and impeccable poise set her apart, and it wasn't long before she found herself at Vogue, the pinnacle of the fashion world. When Babe Paley stepped into her role as an editor at Vogue, she wasn't merely entering the world of fashion. She was cementing her place as a tastemaker whose influence would ripple far beyond the pages of the magazine. Babe wasn't just another editor. She was a living embodiment of Vogue's ethos, elegance, sophistication, and innovation. Her presence in the office wasn't about fulfilling a title. It was about redefining what it meant to be a modern woman of influence. Babe's work at Vogue was a seamless fusion of artistry and intellect. While her impeccable sense of style captured immediate attention, it was her sharp mind and unparalleled work ethic that truly set her apart. She possessed an innate ability to recognize and refine the essence of what made something beautiful. Whether curating layouts, selecting models, or contributing to the editorial voice of the magazine, Babe infused each project with her signature blend of refinement and approachability. She wasn't simply dictating trends. She was showing the world how to live them with authenticity and grace. Her charisma was magnetic, and her warmth made her a beloved figure among colleagues. While many in the fashion world relied on aloofness to establish authority, Babe achieved it through relatability. She could move effortlessly between the rarefied world of high society and the creative chaos of the fashion industry, bridging these two spheres with an ease that made her both aspirational and approachable. Her peers admired her not only for her impeccable taste, but also for the generosity with which she shared her insights. In many ways, Babe's presence at Vogue was more than a career. It was a declaration of her power as a cultural force. Her influence extended far beyond her office walls, as readers eagerly consumed the trends she curated and the ideals of beauty she exemplified. Unlike many of her contemporaries, Babe didn't just follow fashion. She lived it, shaping her personal style into a kind of visual storytelling. Her ability to seamlessly merge her editorial work with her public image made her a trendsetter in both print and real life. What truly elevated Babe's role at Vogue was her authenticity. She wasn't simply a mannequin for the latest fashions. She was a woman with a point of view. Her work reflected a belief that style wasn't just about what you wore, but how you lived. This philosophy resonated deeply with her audience, who saw in Babe not just an editor, but a guide to a more beautiful, thoughtful way of life. Babe's time at Vogue wasn't just a chapter in her career. It was a turning point that solidified her status as an icon. Through her work, she demonstrated that fashion was more than an industry. It was an art form, a statement, and, above all, a reflection of personal identity. Babe didn't just influence trends, she inspired a generation to see fashion as a means of self-expression and empowerment. Amid the glitz and creative buzz of Vogue, Babe crossed paths with Stanley Grafton Mortimer Jr., a scion of old money aristocracy. Stanley was everything Babe could have hoped for in a suitor: dashing, well-connected, and equally steeped in the elite world she inhabited. Their courtship was a whirlwind of romance, charm, and societal approval, culminating in a tasteful wedding in 1940. It was a union that seemed picture-perfect, almost scripted, a beautiful couple poised to conquer the upper echelons of New York society. The couple welcomed 2 children, Tony and Amanda, and outwardly their life seemed idyllic. Babe continued to radiate elegance, solidifying her place as a social icon, while Stanley carried the prestige of his family name. However, as with many high society marriages of the era, cracks began to appear behind the facade. World War II marked a turning point in their marriage. Stanley, like so many men of his generation, returned from the war profoundly changed. He struggled with the emotional scars of his experiences, which manifested as anger, sullenness, and heavy drinking. Meanwhile, Babe, ever the perfectionist, became increasingly focused on maintaining her social standing. She was determined to be seen as flawless, an ideal wife, mother, and hostess. This relentless pursuit of perfection often came at the expense of her personal relationships, including those with her husband and children. Their home, once filled with the promise of a bright future, became a space of emotional distance. Babe's attention was consumed by society's approval, while Stanley grappled with his own demons. By the mid-1940s, their marriage was unraveling, a stark reminder that even the most glamorous lives can be fraught with unseen struggles. Despite its outward sparkle, Babe's early career and marriage revealed the challenges of balancing personal fulfillment with societal expectations. While her time at Vogue cemented her as a style icon, and her marriage to Stanley elevated her social profile, the underlying tensions hinted at the inner battles she would face throughout her life. As Babe pursued the dazzling allure of high society, she was already beginning to confront the shadows lurking beneath the surface. By 1946, Babe Paley's once glamorous marriage to Stanley Grafton Mortimer Jr. had crumbled under the weight of emotional distance and diverging priorities. The dissolution of their union was far from a quiet affair. In the tightly knit, gossip-fueled world of New York's elite, her divorce became a scandalous topic of conversation. For a woman like Babe, whose life revolved around social perfection and public perception, the fallout was both a challenge and an opportunity to reinvent herself. Not long after the ink dried on the divorce papers, Babe's life took another dramatic turn when she began a relationship with William S. Paley, the larger-than-life media mogul behind CBS. Paley, a self-made man in an era dominated by old money aristocracy, was as ambitious as he was enigmatic. His Jewish background and brash demeanor often left him ostracized by parts of New York's insular high society. However, his vast wealth, influence, and razor-sharp intellect made him a force to be reckoned with. Babe, who understood the power dynamics of high society better than most, saw in Paley not only a romantic partner, but also an opportunity to secure her future and redefine her status. Their courtship was a whirlwind, marked by the kind of exclusivity and intrigue that only heightened the public's fascination with Babe. Paley, more than a decade her senior, brought with him a commanding presence and a reputation for brilliance that complemented Babe's elegance and charm. Together, they formed a power couple that redefined the social landscape of their time. When they married in 1947, their union wasn't just a personal milestone, it was a bold statement. Babe had traded the predictability of an aristocratic marriage for the ambition and energy of a media empire. Their marriage, however, was far from conventional. Determined to solidify their place at the pinnacle of society, Babe and Paley curated an air of exclusivity that bordered on the theatrical. They were notoriously inaccessible, keeping their social circle deliberately tight. Invitations to their events were coveted treasures, and the couple maintained an aura of mystery that only amplified their allure. Even close friends could only contact them through formal letters, a practice that added an almost regal quality to their interactions. Among their inner circle were some of the most prominent cultural figures of the era, including the celebrated writer Truman Capote. Capote, captivated by Babe's beauty and poise, quickly became one of her closest confidants. He famously referred to her as one of his swans, a select group of elegant and influential women who epitomized his ideal of grace and sophistication. Babe's second marriage was a stark departure from her first. With Paley, she wasn't just a society darling, she became a symbol of power and reinvention. Yet behind the veneer of their carefully constructed image lay complexities and challenges that would later come to define their relationship. In Paley, Babe found both a partner and a formidable force, but she also stepped into a world where ambition and appearances often came at a steep personal cost. Behind the polished image of Babe Paley's marriage to William Paley lay a reality riddled with heartbreak and disillusionment. For all their societal influence and carefully curated exclusivity, their union was deeply flawed. Paley, despite his public persona as a devoted husband, had a roving eye that frequently led him to infidelities with women who were the polar opposite of Babe's refined elegance. His preference for voluptuous blondes in stark contrast to Babe's slim and sophisticated appearance left her feeling undesired and invisible in her own marriage. For a woman who had built her life around being admired and adored, Paley's repeated betrayals were a devastating blow. Babe's emotional isolation grew, and she began to consider the unthinkable, divorce. Yet in the high-stakes world of 20th century society, divorce wasn't merely a personal decision. It was a public spectacle with the potential to unravel the carefully constructed facade of perfection she had worked so hard to maintain. Enter Truman Capote, one of Babe's closest confidants and a man who understood her like few others. Capote, with his razor-sharp wit and unmatched storytelling ability, had carved out his own place among the elite, often by aligning himself with glamorous women like Babe. He adored her beauty, her grace, and her ability to captivate a room. To Capote, Babe was not just a friend, but a muse, his ultimate swan. When Babe confided in Capote about her thoughts of leaving Paley, his response was as blunt as it was shocking. With his characteristic candor, he reportedly told her, "You don't have any money and you've got 4 children. Think of them." His words, though harsh, carried a pragmatic truth that Babe couldn't ignore. The idea of divorce, with its inevitable scandal and uncertainty, faded into the background. Instead, Babe resigned herself to her gilded cage, burying her pain beneath a veneer of composure and perfection. But Capote's role in Babe's life took a dark and irreversible turn. In 1975, as Babe was grappling with her declining health and the emotional toll of her marriage, Capote published an excerpt of his novel in progress in Esquire. The piece, titled La Côte Basque, 1965, wasn't the work of fiction it claimed to be. Thinly disguised as a novel, it was, in reality, a ruthless expose of the private lives of his high society friends, including Babe and Paley. In the story, Capote painted an unflattering and painfully intimate portrait of a society wife trapped in a loveless marriage, complete with sordid details of her husband's infidelities. To those familiar with Babe's life, the parallels were unmistakable. What Capote likely saw as a daring literary move, Babe saw as the ultimate betrayal. She had trusted him with her vulnerabilities, and he had turned them into fodder for public consumption. The fallout was swift and brutal. Babe, who had always prided herself on discretion and elegance, was mortified. For a woman who never publicly criticized her husband despite his failings, the airing of her private struggles was unbearable. She immediately severed ties with Capote, banishing him from her life and her inner circle. Their once close friendship, built on mutual admiration and trust, was irreparably broken. Capote's betrayal wasn't just a personal wound. It was a public humiliation that amplified Babe's emotional isolation. While Capote may have intended the story as a critique of Paley's behavior, or even as a misguided homage to Babe's resilience, the damage it caused was profound. For Babe, it was yet another reminder that in her world of glittering appearances, even those closest to her could wield her secrets as weapons. Babe Paley wasn't just a socialite. She was a living blueprint for elegance, a standard of beauty and sophistication that captivated New York's high society. Her impeccable sense of style transcended trends, becoming the very definition of timelessness. Whether stepping out in couture or effortlessly elevating casual pieces, Babe had a unique ability to make anything she wore seem iconic. Her innate understanding of fashion and her instinct for what worked, long before stylists became the norm, set her apart in a world where appearance was everything. What made Babe's influence so remarkable was her unintentional ability to start trends. One legendary example occurred when, on a particularly warm day, she tied her scarf to her handbag instead of wearing it. This simple, impromptu decision sparked a global fashion craze, with women around the world copying the look. Babe didn't chase fashion. She defined it, often by turning personal moments of practicality into cultural phenomena. Her talents extended beyond her wardrobe. As a hostess, Babe's attention to detail was nothing short of extraordinary. She approached entertaining with the same meticulous care as a designer crafting a masterpiece. Every element, from the flowers in the guest rooms to the carefully curated menus, was chosen with precision. She even kept a little gold notebook to jot down notes on how to improve future gatherings, ensuring each event was more flawless than the last. Guests often marveled at her ability to make every detail seem effortless, even though behind the scenes nothing was left to chance. But the glittering world Babe inhabited wasn't without its shadows. Social perfection often came at the cost of intense rivalries, and none was more infamous than her tension with Gloria Guinness, another celebrated socialite and style icon. While Babe exuded a quiet, understated elegance, Gloria was bold, dazzling, and unapologetically ostentatious. The two women, though equally admired, found themselves locked in a subtle but undeniable competition. One of the most famous incidents of their rivalry occurred when Gloria invited Babe to join her on her private yacht, assuring her that it would be a casual affair. Babe arrived appropriately dressed only to find Gloria emerging from her cabin dripping in diamonds and dressed for an opulent evening. The implication was clear. Gloria had outmaneuvered Babe in this unspoken battle of appearances. From that day forward, Babe made sure to pack her finest attire, no matter the occasion, determined never to be caught off guard again. While these rivalries may have fueled her perfectionism, they also revealed the pressures Babe faced as a woman whose identity was so deeply intertwined with appearances. She was admired for her grace and poise, but the weight of maintaining that image was immense. Every outfit, every party, and every social interaction carried the expectation of flawlessness, an expectation Babe never let herself fall short of, even at great personal cost. Babe's role as a fashion icon and socialite wasn't merely about clothes or parties. It was about creating an aspirational image, a symbol of what many in her world sought to emulate. Yet beneath the perfection lay a human being, one who, despite her serene exterior, was navigating a world rife with judgment, rivalry, and the constant pressure to stay ahead. It was a role she played to perfection, even if it meant sacrificing her own comfort and happiness along the way. As the years went on, the cracks in Babe Paley's carefully curated life became harder to hide. Her lifelong battle with migraines intensified, forcing her to retreat into darkened rooms for days at a time. The constant pain became a shadow over her glamorous existence, a stark contrast to the glittering image she presented to the world. In an attempt to cope, she turned to tranquilizers, which became a daily crutch. At the same time, her 2-pack-a-day smoking habit, a vice common in her social circles, began to take a devastating toll. In 1974, at just 59 years old, Babe received the diagnosis that would change everything: lung cancer. For a woman who had always maintained an aura of perfection, The diagnosis was a harsh reminder of her own vulnerability. Yet true to her nature, Babe faced the illness with stoic determination. When chemotherapy caused her hair to fall out, she didn't let it diminish her elegance. Instead, she donned chic turbans, transforming a symbol of illness into a statement of style. Even in the face of adversity, Babe clung to the grace that had defined her life. But while Babe fought to preserve her dignity, her marriage to Bill Paley only added to her suffering. Bill's relentless infidelities were no longer whispered scandals, but glaring realities. His preference for younger women, often models and starlets, was an open secret. These betrayals struck at the core of Babe's identity, making her feel not only abandoned, but also inadequate in a world that had always celebrated her beauty. The emotional toll of Bill's actions was compounded by his lack of empathy for her struggles. Even as Babe endured the physical and emotional agony of cancer, Bill's indifference remained steadfast. His dismissive attitude added an unbearable weight to her already heavy burden. At her most vulnerable, she found herself isolated, not just by her illness, but by the coldness of the man she had once trusted with her heart. For Babe, maintaining appearances was both a source of strength and an exhausting performance. Even as her health deteriorated, she refused to let go of her commitment to style and grace. She would continue to apply makeup meticulously, as if defying the disease to steal the beauty that had defined her life. But beneath the poised exterior, Babe was grappling with the relentless progression of her illness and the emotional scars of a marriage that had long ceased to bring her comfort. Babe Paley's decline was a poignant reminder of the fragility behind the facade of perfection. Her battle with cancer, coupled with the betrayal and neglect of her husband, revealed a woman who, despite her immense strength and resilience, faced profound loneliness and pain in her final years. As Babe Paley approached the end of her life, the cracks in her meticulously maintained facade became impossible to conceal. After decades of enduring Bill Paley's betrayals and emotional neglect in silence, Babe finally allowed her frustrations to surface. The perfect socialite, who had always exuded grace and restraint, began to confront the realities of her strained marriage. On her deathbed, Babe shed the mask of politeness she had worn for so long and openly voiced her grievances about Bill. In front of friends and family, she delivered sharp, unfiltered critiques of her husband, a final act of defiance from a woman who had spent years suppressing her own needs to maintain appearances. On July 6, 1978, Babe Paley passed away just one day after her 63rd birthday. Her death was more than the loss of an individual. It was the closing chapter of an era defined by grace, glamour, and unyielding poise. For decades, Babe had embodied a standard of elegance so iconic that her name became synonymous with perfection. Her passing left a profound void in the world of high society, a world she had not only inhabited but shaped. Yet, even in death, Babe could not escape the shadow of Bill's infidelities. His unfaithfulness persisted unabated as he continued to pursue younger women, even during Babe's final days. One of his affairs involved a woman he met at their granddaughter's school play, a relationship that began as Babe's health was rapidly declining. At Babe's funeral, the indignities continued, with the women in attendance reportedly eyeing Bill and murmuring, "I'm going to marry him." But perhaps Babe had the last word, after all. Despite his numerous affairs, Bill Paley never remarried, a poignant reminder of the singular place Babe held in his life. For all his flaws and indiscretions, Bill never found another partner who matched Babe's grace, intelligence, and influence. Babe Paley's legacy continues to inspire, a testament to the power and reinvention in the face of adversity. She redefined what it meant to be a socialite, not merely as an ornament of high society, but as a trendsetter, an icon, and a woman of immense strength. Her ability to inspire through her style and composure left an indelible mark on fashion and culture, ensuring that her name remained synonymous with sophistication. Beyond her impeccable exterior, Babe's life was a poignant tale of the sacrifices and struggles that often accompany great beauty and social prominence. Her story serves as both an inspiration and a cautionary tale, reminding us that even the most dazzling lives can be touched by profound pain. In the end, Babe Paley wasn't just a figure of glamour. She was a deeply human woman who faced her struggles with courage and, even in her final days, held on to the grace that had defined her. Babe Paley's life was a blend of elegance and sorrow, her legacy etched in the annals of high society. Her beauty and influence left an indelible mark on fashion and culture, but her story serves as a poignant reminder that even the most glamorous lives can be fraught with struggles. As we remember Babe Paley, we celebrate not just her iconic style, but also her resilience in the face of personal turmoil. If you enjoyed this journey into her extraordinary life, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories about history's most fascinating figures. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.